Welcome to Concentrate on Cold Brew by Alliance Brew Gear, where we explore the world of low and slow coffee extraction, whip up some cold brews here and there, and ultimately help you jumpstart your cold brew game. I'm Nick Tracy, and this is Concentrate on Cold Brew. We hope you're having a great day in the cafe. In this week's episode, we'll go over the different variables to keep in mind when brewing cold brew, give you some basic brewing recipes, and general tips to keep your brews consistent. So you know what cold brew is and why it makes sense for shops to sell it. But what about actual brewing recipes? How much water and how much coffee do you use? What about grind size or water temperature? How long should it brew for? What size of brewer should you be using? How do you actually brew cold brew? Let's talk basics first. It varies from brand to brand, but in broad terms, you generally have a brewer, a filter or filters if your brewer has multiple filtration levels, water, and coffee grounds. The grounds sit in the water, then get filtered when the brew is done, and bam, you've got cold brew. Before we get into full-on brewing ratios, let's address the topics of grind size and water temperature. Traditionally, cold brew is brewed using the coarsest grinds possible and at room temperature or colder. Some more advanced brewing processes involve finer grind sizes and/or a process called hot blooming. We'll cover these in a future episode, but for today's content we'll be assuming a coarse grind and brewing at refrigerator temperatures, around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. While room temperature brews are still permitted, brewing in the refrigerator is the more food-safe option, and we are advocates of proactive precaution. So, quick history lesson. Not a full-blown one because episode 5 is all about the history of cold brew. But traditionally, cold brew has been brewed as a concentrate to be diluted at the time of serving. While we're no strangers to this, we do think that many of the traditional concentrate recipes are unnecessarily strong. That strength buries some of the more nuanced flavors specialty coffee has to offer. This is why our recommended concentrate recipe is a 1-to-1 dilution, meaning that you dilute the concentrate with an equal volume of something else, be that water, ice, milk, and/or cream. It offers the convenience of not brewing as often while still giving some of the more nuanced flavors room to express themselves. However, as far as those nuances are concerned, ready-to-drink recipes are definitely the best way to translate them to the final cup. Our RTD recipe may seem strange at first, but after some explanation, I think you'll see the method to our madness. Our rule of thumb is 1 pound of coffee for every 2 gallons of water used, scaling up or down depending on the size of your brewing vessel and your desired volume of cold brew. So how did we come up with that 1 pound to 2 gallon ratio? Let's think about it in terms of weight. 1 gallon of water weighs around 8.34 pounds, meaning 2 gallons of water weighs 16.68 pounds. The widely accepted golden ratio of coffee as it pertains to pour-overs and home brewing machines is 1-to-17 by weight. So if 2 gallons of water weigh 16.68 pounds, then that means our weight ratio in this 1 pound to 2 gallon brewing recipe is actually 1-to-16.68 by weight. Considering that we're using a coarser grind than in most pour-overs, this gives us closer extraction levels to that 1-to-17 ratio at a finer grind size in a hotter brew. However, because this extraction level is ideal for consuming as is, hence the name ready to drink, you wouldn't want to add too many other ingredients to it such as ice, milk, water, or anything else that would dilute it a significant amount. Now that we've got our ready-to-drink cold brew recipe defined, let's talk about brewing concentrates. Similar to the RTD recipe earlier, our concentrate recipe is a 1-to-1 recipe. That is 1 pound of coffee for every 1 gallon of water used, or a 1-to-8.34 ratio by weight. Essentially, you just double the amount of coffee used in the brew versus the amount you would have used in an RTD. This way, you can then dilute the final concentrate with an equal part of whatever you would like to dilute it with and effectively have 2 times the volume of coffee produced from one brew. In this recipe, the 1-to-1 has a dual meaning: the 1 pound to 1 gallon brewing ratio and the 1-to-1 dilution of the end product. Beyond the strength of the cold brew, there are more differences between the two brewing styles. Ready-to-drink cold brews are the truer expression of the coffee bean's inherent flavors as opposed to the concentrates. Think about the difference between orange juice from freshly squeezed oranges versus diluting orange juice concentrate with water. They're both technically orange juice, but the juice from the freshly squeezed oranges will paint a more accurate picture of the orange's flavors, but take longer to prepare a large volume, while the reconstituted concentrate offers convenience, shorter preparation times, and increased volume, but sacrifices some flavor quality. It might still have the same quantity of vitamins, sugars, and the like, and they might look incredibly similar, but there will always be that X factor that differentiates the flavor quality of the fresh squeezed juice. However, there is definitely a time and a place for both brew methods, and they both have benefits and drawbacks, so why would you want to brew with one method over the other? Let's consider concentrates first. A common reason people have brewed concentrates in the past was to get rid of old beans that no longer taste the same in hot brews. We talked earlier about concentrates tending to hide the nuanced flavors of the beans, but this goes both ways. It also does a good job of masking stale flavors of older beans, which makes that a great way for shops to monetize something they would have otherwise thrown out, or just chalked up as a loss. If you're a specialty coffee fan, odds are there have been times where you've had a bag or two too many, couldn't use them all in time, and the beans have gone stale. Brewing the excess beans in a cold brew concentrate can be a great way to make use of the excess without simply discarding them. Second, it is more convenient to brew less often. Some people find that it is worth not brewing as frequently, particularly if their customers care more about caffeine content than nuanced flavors. A great example of this is music festivals, where people quite often just want a boost to keep them alert and a familiar coffee taste. The ability to add a significant amount of ice to the drink will also allow people to walk around and sip a cold beverage for a lot longer than if ice wasn't present in the drink. Lastly, concentrates are ideal for mixing. Beyond just ice, milk, or water, you could get creative with mixing up some stellar craft mocktails, or straight up cocktails if you're a cafe with a liquor license or a home brewer looking to experiment. The added strength of the concentrate will help it stand up to the other mixers and ingredients, creating new, bold, and complex flavors that a weaker ready-to-drink cold brew might not be able to present. Conversely, you might want to brew a ready-to-drink cold brew for a few reasons. Most significantly, if you've got a fantastic fresh coffee that really shines by itself, it's probably better enjoyed at a strength where you can drink it without adding anything extra. If you're a super specialty cafe with customers that are just as nerdy as you are about super unique tasting notes in coffee, or if you're one of those customers, you're going to want cold brew that continues to reflect that and isn't merely an afterthought. Continuing this pursuit of increasingly specialty cold brew is the concept of Nitro cold brew. Nitro introduces nitrogen gas into the mix, which drastically accentuates the aromatics and flavor compounds of the cold brew, so using a fantastic RTD brew makes it all the more tasty. Additionally, Nitro cold brew is best served with no added elements like ice or milk, so RTDs are the way to go. Next week's episode is all about Nitro, so tune in for an in-depth look at that process next Friday. How much you should brew and whether you're brewing a concentrate or a ready-to-drink recipe completely depends on the demand for cold brew in your area and the flavor preferences of your customer base, which is indicated by the rate you go through a particular batch, and by surveying your customers. Ideally, an RTD batch should last a shop a maximum of 1 week, while a concentrate should last a max of 2. The microfines that make it through all of your filter levels and into the final brew will continue to extract as the brew sits in the fridge. This will cause it to taste different over time, which isn't ideal when you're serving customers looking for a consistent beverage. This is less notable in concentrates due to their higher amount of extraction initially, hence the additional week. However, if you've got the time for it and a brewer that this works with, let your cold brew settle. What I mean by that is set the brewer where you'll be draining it from and leave it there for a while after you remove the grounds. This lets all those microfines settle into the bottom of the bucket, meaning they're not going to clog your outlet filter, so it'll drain a lot faster and the end product will be a lot cleaner. Please note though, this only works in brewers that have a draining area on the side, rather than the bottom, and a way to remove the grounds before draining. Again, to keep your drinks as consistent as possible, treat those dates as maximums. No one wants stale, musty cold brew. However, if you're sipping small batch brews you've made at home, you can add a week to each of these so long as you remember that the flavor will most likely deteriorate over time. Again, we're just being cautious with these recommendations. Your cold brew will probably be okay after, 2 weeks, but keeping your drink consistent is always good. Lastly, how long should you be brewing for? I recommend a window of 15 to 21 hours, but find that the best ready-to-drink cold brews are typically in the 15 to 18-hour window. I tend to go with 16 hours most of the time, and the best concentrates are in the 18 to 21-hour window, although I lean towards 18. Again, this is assuming that your brewer is refrigerated and you're using coarse grounds. The colder the brew and the coarser the grounds, the longer contact time it needs to extract the goodies out of the grounds. In the end, these variables serve as a great jumping off point. Everyone has different preferences and tastes, so if you've tried these recipes but neither one fits your preferences, tweak each variable accordingly to come closer to what you like. That's really all there is to it, everyone. Not as complicated as one might think. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Concentrate on Cold Brew about the basics of brewing cold brew. If you've been brewing cold brew, do you prefer ready to drink or concentrate recipes? Let us know in the comment section below. I teased it earlier, but we'll be back next week to talk about the hottest new trend in coffee, Nitro Cold Brew. A huge thank you to Partners Coffee Roasters in Brooklyn for hooking us up with their Jumpstart blend for the brewing examples in today's episode. We're excited to announce that if you want a bag of the Jumpstart blend and a Cold Pro Junior for free, check the link in the description to enter the giveaway. We'll announce the 5 winners in 2 episodes. What are you waiting for? Jumpstart your cold brew game. If you enjoyed today's episode of Concentrate on Cold Brew, please consider liking this video and sharing it with your friends. It really helps the channel out. If you want to connect with us, various coffee roasters, cafes, and other cold brewers, the link to the Cold Brew Alliance page is in the description. Click or tap the Alliance logo to check out the rest of the Alliance Brew Gear channel. Catch up on the rest of the Concentrate on Cold Brew videos over here, or watch the previous episode right here. Again, thanks for tuning in to Concentrate on Cold Brew, and stay caffeinated out there, my friends.